Well, Liverpool played Arsenal at the weekend. The defending champions won the game 1-0. Mark, you were there. We're sort of talking about Liverpool as if this was one of the best windows that any club has ever had in the history of football. You've seen the early sort of shape of that. What did you make of Liverpool?
Well, until they scored the goal, I thought Arsenal contained them quite well. I thought, obviously it was a fantastic goal by Dominic Szoboszlai to win the game, but I've seen a bit of Liverpool. I saw them against Bournemouth and obviously saw the Newcastle game on TV. They're not the finished article, obviously, but I think we're all focusing on the deals they've done. They've done an amazing number of deals. I mean, I can't even, was it over £400 million they spent? But I think people are forgetting what they've let go. I think 6 major players are no longer there. 6 or 7 have come in, so if you go through it, you obviously, even people like, obviously Trent's gone, Joe Quanta's gone, Luis Diaz has gone, obviously with the tragedy of Diogo Jota, that was never, obviously, you could never contemplate that. Darwin Núñez has gone, Harvey Elliott has gone. So that's a big bulk of their title-winning squad. So they are losing players who made a big contribution last year. And they've brought in a lot of players who, are still finding their feet. I think Florian Wirtz so far has been disappointing. I think he's found the pace of the game way beyond what I expected. I think Ekitike has been brilliant. I think he's come in and settled in straight away. We don't know about Isak, what he's going to do. Obviously, he'll take time to get up to speed because of his lack of training. But I think what Liverpool have done, I think they've been quite intelligent with it. They've decided that Isak, Ekitike and Wirtz are going to be there. Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, Mo Salah for the next 5 or 6 years. So that's why they're getting them all in now.
Do you think so? I mean, the one thing about Isak, brilliant player as he is he has had a questionable fitness record. I think over the last 3 years, he's missed something like 35, 36 Premier League games, which is almost a season. So is it not a case that Liverpool are thinking, well, can Isak, even for the money, for the huge outlay, can he realistically play 3 games a week for 9 months? Or are we thinking we cherry pick him for the biggest games and Ekitike plays the others?
That is a big ask because you've got obviously Mo Salah to factor in. Now I think if you look at Salah's stats since maybe February, he's dipped. He's not the Mo Salah he was at the first part of last season. He's got an African Nations.
Yeah, but I'm talking about their number 9.
Yeah. I think it'll take a while for Isak, and I think you're right. He's not been the most durable centre forward over the years, has he?
No, because he's a phenomenal player, but Newcastle have had to manage him quite carefully.
I think Liverpool have taken a massive gamble on Isak. If you'd asked me last week, what should they spend the money on? They should have got the Mark Gray deal done quicker, which they didn't do in the end. That fell through. And I think Ibrahima Konate went off injured at the weekend. They've got a real kind of problem at centre half. If Konate or Van Dijk are injured, they've got nobody to come in. Up front, they've got an array of talent, so they didn't really need Isak, but I think it was a case of let's get him because we can get him now. If they'd waited till the summer, who knows, Barcelona could have been in there. But they've spent a lot of money. They've won the transfer window, as people say, but let's wait and see in the summer how successful it's been, because 6 in, 6 out, or whatever it is, that's a lot.
I think with Isak, Liverpool have seen how tough it is for top clubs to get goal-scoring number 9s in. There aren't that many around. I mean, I know you've done pieces about Arsenal's search and ended up with Victor Gyökeres. Obviously, United have ended up with Benjamin Sesko. Talent in there, but not necessarily the fantastic goal scorers that the clubs think they're going to get. I think Liverpool have looked at Isak and thought we can't miss this opportunity to get him. And I agree that his injury record, if I was at Liverpool, would be a slight concern. But I just think they think we can't pass up the opportunity to get this guy at 25 years old for the player that he could become. If you can keep him fit, I just think it's a phenomenal signing.
So at the end of this window, I think, am I right in saying all 3 of us said Liverpool to win the league?
I said Arsenal.
You said Arsenal.
Yeah.
Did you say Liverpool?
I said Liverpool.
Okay, so are you more or less confident now the window's closed? Both of you. This is a question because obviously Arsenal spent a lot as well. Rob, are you more or less confident now that Liverpool will win it?
Probably more confident. The Gay thing would worry me. Obviously, they've not, apart from the Arsenal game, they've not been particularly sound defensively. I think there was a case, like Mark said, to invest the Isak money in a defender or get Gay done before you went and tried to do Isak, because the need there was bigger. I just think in terms of the squad, the result against Arsenal kind of galvanises everyone as well. It's meant to be the 2 title challenges and you've beaten them dead early. I think that Liverpool will be champions.
I think people are getting a bit hysterical about Arsenal's performance at the weekend. I thought, like I said, until Szoboszlai scored, I thought they were good value for getting a point. Yes, they didn't push over the line to get the win, but I think over the course of the season, I think Arsenal are much better than last year. Who'll keep more clean sheets? Arsenal, I imagine. Liverpool probably score more goals, but the Newcastle game was crazy. They were rescued by a 16-year-old that night. They were really rescued by him. Against 10 men, they threw away a 2-goal lead against 10 men. Bournemouth on the opening game, they were very lucky to win that game. Late goal by Chiesa. I think Liverpool have got issues that they haven't addressed. They actually haven't addressed the midfield balance. When Gravenberg and McAllister plays, is great, but when one of them misses, it's not great. So I think Arsenal, that's just kind of, that might actually do them a favour, that defeat. It might kind of lower expectations, but I think Arsenal are a very good team. Eze will make a big impact. Gyökeres will score lots of goals against the teams at the bottom half of the table. I'm not sure how effective he'll be against the top teams, but still, I think Arsenal, as the season progresses, I think they'll settle down, and I think they'll push Liverpool a lot closer than people expect.
I think that if there is a downside to spending 260 million on 8 players, it is that it does heighten the pressure on the manager.
On Arteta.
On Arteta.
But it was intense as it was. I mean, he could have spent nothing. He has to win something this year. That's before they spend that money or not.
Yeah, but I just, he's somebody who is extremely studious, and in that sort of Guardiola style of maybe he overthinks some of the big games. He certainly has some sort of complex about going to Anfield. They've not won there for 13 years, I think it is. He was in the team. He was a player the last time they won at Anfield. So he knows how difficult it is for Arsenal to go there. But it felt like it was such a missed opportunity to kind of go for the throat. And no one's really saying, open up and, and make it what he would call a basketball game where you're there's no control and you're at risk of conceding every time you lose the ball. But to spend that money on those kind of players, to not start Eze, he'd had a pre-season, he played for Palace. Do you not want to sort of go for it a little bit more? And I just feel as though, although they've spent that money, it's very early in the season, but we've not seen that much different from Arsenal. And I was on tour with them in pre-season, and there was you got the sense behind the scenes they were really trying to say to that group, look, things have reinvigorated. It's not gone stale. We've not finished second 3 years in a row, and this is our ceiling. We'll never get past it. They spent a lot of money. They got those players in early. The vast majority of them went on the tour, and you did get this sense that they'd really reinvigorated and they were in a different place. They were talking behind the scenes about trying to play more direct, trying to just shift the style of play a little bit more, and create and score more goals, because that was their problem last season. They drew, I think it was 14 league games. That was the reason why they didn't win the title. But I've not seen enough from them yet. I've not seen that translate into their approach to be a little bit braver, to be a little bit more assertive, and to take more risk. It was very safe what they were doing.
In Arsenal's defence, and it's not like me to defend Arsenal very often, Saliba went off after 5 minutes. Should he have started? Not, I don't know, because he got injured in the warm-up, but they were without Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz, probably the two of their best attacking players. Certainly Saka would have played. I don't know about Havertz ahead of Gyökeres, but, and you can say, well, Bournemouth went there and tried really hard to get a result, etc. But I still think when Arsenal are back to their full strength side, they are more than a match for Liverpool.
Do you genuinely think, and basing it just on feeling rather than anything else, that Arsenal are a better team now than at the start of last season? Because if you look at Liverpool, in my mind, based on nothing else apart from feeling, their team is better now with those players than it was at the start of last season. I don't get the same sense. I know that he's brought in some players and they're obviously quality players, but just in your head, do you feel like they're a better team right now than they were a year ago?
No. They're a better squad. Undeniably, they're a better squad. And I remember when Noni Madueke signed, and there was a little bit of a backlash to that signing from some Arsenal supporters who didn't really see the value in spending 52 million on a player who had a mixed record at Chelsea. But I remember speaking to a couple of people at the club about him who were saying, look, he's backup basically for Saka. And you sort of think, are Arsenal quite in a position where they're going to spend 52 million quid on a player who's not going to play if everybody's fit? But that's where they chose to target the deficiencies in the squad, not necessarily in the starting 11. But the player who changes it all is Gyökeres, because they can't play in the same way in that sort of horseshoe shape where they control the team, pen someone in, play left to right, search for an opening, and Havertz with the intelligence and the clever flicks and all that kind of thing unlocks the team. They can't play that way with Gyökeres. They have to change the style, and I've not seen enough of it yet. And there is a danger that they get caught between how they used to play because they know it versus how they need to play to get the best out of the new signings.
And that's what I mean. You asked me before who's a title favourite, and again, it's based on nothing else apart from feel. That you speak to, like, I don't know, club bosses at different clubs. Everyone is talking about Liverpool's window. very few people are going, well, Arsenal look good. They look like a great team. Now, I'm not necessarily that doesn't mean that they can't go on and win the league. Of course they can, because anything could happen in the next 10 months. I just think when those two teams line up in their next game, if everyone is fit, Liverpool are just a far scarier team than Arsenal.
Just on Gyökeres, we know that Arsenal looked at Sesko for a long time, and it looked like he was the guy. And they were also very interested in Isak. So why did they end up with Gyökeres?
Well, there's a number of reasons for that. Firstly, they did all the work on Sesko last summer. He chose then to sign a new contract to stay at Red Bull Leipzig for another season, and they decided to wait for him. But when Andrea Berta came in as sporting director, there was a fresh conversation about who they wanted to sign. He, I think, was pushing more for Gyökeres. They were certainly open to doing both. They kept in touch with Sesko. They asked about Sesko in January, thought whether they could get him mid-season. That was a non-starter. That then led them down the Ollie Watkins path, which obviously that deal didn't happen. So when they got to the summer, Gyökeres it really looked like it was the easier deal to do. It was a slightly cheaper deal to do. And I think also with Sesko, they felt that maybe the downside was too great, that they were buying a player potentially for more money or a comparable fee, who was much less proven. 22, I think he is, Sesko. Could be anything, but there was no guarantee that he would be a success. Whereas they felt, Gyökeres had scored, I think it's 97 goals in 102 games for Sporting Lisbon, goal a game. Okay, we can debate the merits of the Portuguese league, but they felt 27, he's a win-now striker. He's someone who can come in. We don't have to wait for a year, 2 years for him to really hit his highest level. They felt this is the guy who's the safer bet to come and deliver this season.
And I think he's the key to everything to me for Arsenal. If Gyökeres turns out to be Haaland, Arsenal probably win the league. If he turns out to be Højlund, they don't.
Just on that though, I mean, why were they more aggressive with Isak and Newcastle? Liverpool have played hard ball and got the player, so why didn't Arsenal?
Because I think that the view at Arsenal was that Newcastle wouldn't sell him. And I think there was... I'm fairly sure that they would have sounded that situation out earlier in the window, maybe before the window started this summer. And the feedback they got was that Newcastle are not going to sell him. Now, you can argue that was naivety on their part, that maybe they should have, stayed in the running, kept their powder dry, and then they could have rivaled Liverpool for his signature right at the end of the window. But I think they just felt that, as I say, Gyökeres was the slightly easier deal to do and the safer bet when you take into account Isak's injury record, the fee, and then Gyökeres' record and his fee.
But ultimately, another big win for Liverpool against Arsenal.
Yeah. Well, and who knows? I mean, we're talking about Gyökeres and Isak now. I mean, whichever of those two strikers is more effective could easily be the difference maker